Okay, so the Celtic Druids were a scientific people. The priests, they were not only historians, but they were also doctors and psychiatrists. They helped people with their problems. And but eventually they were expelled from the island, right? They were all massacred. Some reports that they were killed. And and who knows? You know, all this is all shrouded in mystery. We do know that he killed his Druidic master. He ordered God to kill one of the Druidic, arch druids or whatever. So ordered God to kill him. His former master was a Druidic priest, and he was burned alive. He burned their books, 150 of their books, and he's supposed to be known to expel the snakes. And the snakes, there were no snakes in Ireland, and so the only thing that it could mean is that he expelled. Some people say it's just the religion and the culture and the idea. I think that's bullshit. I think he killed a lot of people. It was like a Spanish Inquisition. You either do as we say or you die. And it might not have been Patrick like that, but with the Roman Empire right behind it, I don't know. So the way Patricius was able to get in the Irish folk is the same way that Catholic Church was able to get in all the pagans during Constantine's time. They was able to co-opt the Druidic symbols in order to undermine the rival religion. They fused nature and magic with Christian practice. The Irish placed the sun at the center of their cross, and that's where we get the Celtic cross, right? The Christian cross, and then it's got a Christian cross, and it's got like a circle in the middle of it. That's the Celtic cross. So that's, the things that Patricius had did in order to get the Druids enveloped into this new, this new Christian, this new wave of Christianity. So the Christian cross and a circle. The circle is a symbol for the sun. It was combined to form the Celtic cross. The Irish pagans' religion was based on nature, and it used oral legends and myths. So there's St. Patrick's breastplate, which is the famous prayer of Patrick's, which he didn't even write, right? But it invokes the power of the sun and the moon, the rocks, and the wind, as well as God. So it's bringing in these nature elements, which the Druids were very one with nature, right? The Druids were the native Irish people, and they were one with nature. They were scientific people. There were reports that there was slavery, right? Because he was a slave, Patrick was, and then there was also of sacrifices too. But a lot of our holidays comes from these pagan holidays, which began with sacrifices. So let's see. There's Patricius. Let's see. Okay, wait, hold on. He invokes the power of the sun, the moon, rocks, and wind, as well as God, and this is what is called Aaron Go Hoo-ha, which I don't even know what that means, but Aaron Go Hoo-ha is what that's called when you invoke the power of the sun, the moon, the rocks, and the wind. Patricius destroyed the influence of the Druids by destroying the sacred sites of the people and building churches and monasteries where the Druids used to live and teach. So he's banishing the Druids. They're all leaving town. There's just a desolate wasteland right where their monasteries and their churches were. He's putting up Christian churches and monasteries. And, he's just wiping them out. It's an absolute Druidic genocide. And there had been pagan people and other people that wasn't just the Druids that was in Ireland. And I don't know how many, he was only they said, like, a couple 100,000 people was able to baptize, but he was able to get rid of all the Druids, like, where the fuck did the Druids go? And, any of the other people that wasn't Christian, were they allowed to coexist side by side? Today, Ireland is pretty solidly Roman Catholic. And that's something that's, a lot of people know, right? The Irish Catholics came over to America during the potato famine. But let's see. Instead of hearing the teachings and the advice of the Druids, the people began to hear the teachings of Rome once he destroyed their monasteries and their buildings and got rid of all their leadership and replaced it with his own leadership. So Patricius was just building a movement, right, all upon himself. Really, he was actually the rock that, he was. Peter wasn't shit compared to Patrick. Patricius burned the few 150 books that he saw, right? Basically, the bards Druids were the ones that was going to remember all the history, verbal history, and with the Druids dead and their influence broken, their history was forgotten. So because they're mostly an oral history carrying folk, we don't hear as much about who they actually are except for by outside sources. Now, the Irish have celebrated their patron saint with a quiet religious holiday for centuries, perhaps more than 1,000 years. It took the United States to turn St. Patricius's Day into a boozy spectacle. Irish immigrants first celebrated it in Boston in 1737 and first paraded in New York in 1762. Thomas Gallagher points out in Paddy's Lament that during the first winter of the Irish potato famine, 1846 to 47, as perhaps 400,000 Irish peasants starved, landlords exported 17 million pounds sterling worth of grain, cattle, pigs, and flour, and eggs, and poultry. Food which could have prevented the death of the potato famine. So again, you had the landlords, the Irish landlords, they were able to export 17 million pounds sterling worth of grain, cattle, pigs, flour, eggs, and poultry. So it wasn't a monocrop or a mono whatever you want to call it, but they had lots of things. But the landlords want to make money off these other products, and so that's where, you know, instead of feeding their own people, they let them die. And this is something we see over and over again. We'll see that in the Dust Bowl, right, with the Yokies when they're going to that one book, not the Great Gatsby, but the Great Oklahoma Dust Bowl people. I don't know. So the Jodes, right? The Jodes are going. I'm gonna find out later. What was that? I don't know. It's about poor people thing here in America. But come back to the Irish potato famine. Sorry, the Irish potato famine happened in 1846, about 150 years ago. And then that's perhaps 400,000 Irish peasants starved. And that's the train you hear in the background. So about 400,000 peasants had starved. Landlords exported 17 million pounds, so they had all this other shit, but they let them die. Throughout the famine, as Gallagher notes, there had been abundance of food produced in Ireland. Yet the landlords exported it to markets abroad. Then white nativists, know-nothing Anglo-Saxon Protestant wasp, such as Julia Chancellor in America, murdered over 100 Germans and Irish in Louisville in 1855. And that was known as Bloody Monday. Right here in Louisville, right, 1855, just about 6 years after, you know, they're dying of a potato famine in Ireland, they get here, and then the white people are fucking shooting at the Irish and killing them, killed over 100 of them, right before Election Day. And there was also another anti-Irish and anti-German Catholics riot in Cincinnati the exact same year, 1855. Today, when we produce more food than ever before, more than 1 in 10 people on this earth are hungry, and the hunger of 800 million happens at the same time as another historical first. They are outnumbered by the 1 billion people on this planet who are overweight. So we still have lots of hungry people. It would only take about 1% of the military budget to feed everybody, but Americans don't give a shit about feeding the world. We spend half of our budget on the military. We want to blow up the world. We don't want to feed the world. We want to divide and conquer. Depopulate the world. Let them starve, and there's more room for Americans. That's what America believes. The general, notion of their fatness, and they don't give a shit what the government and the CIA and all the 900 military bases in 150 countries are doing. They don't give a shit, right? But I digress. By the late 19th century, St. Patrick's Day parade became a way of Irish Americans to flaunt their numerical and political might. And that's what it does today. It retains the same role today. Some say that the Normans had actually banished the Druids. I couldn't find anywhere on Google to actually substantiate that. Patricius worked in Ireland for over 30 to 40 years, but died in poverty on March 17th, 461, right? And that's what we're celebrating. March 17th is the day that Patrick died. 461 AD, 461. So that's, over 1,500 years ago. The day Patricius died at Saul, Downpatrick, Ireland, March 17th. And then the head of Patricius, just like Columcille and Brigid, rests in a Jesuit church in Portugal. So the head of Patrick, right, there's a big debate. Oh no, who's going to have all this stuff? The Jesuit church in Portugal was able to get Patrick's head, right? So they was able to get his head. The 3 bodies are buried. Brigid, Columcille, and Patricius are buried in Downpatrick in the northern part of Ireland. According to the annals of the 4 masters in early modern compilation of earlier annuals, his corpse soon become an object of conflict in the battle for the body of Saint Patricius. So, overall, who is this guy, right? This motherfucker genocided the fucking Druids. He wiped out the pagans. He wiped out their culture and everything that they believed in. He co-opted them, right? He was able to adopt magic into Christianity, which it already had it, so that really wasn't a huge leap. But since he was able to transfer Christianity into something different, that makes him Protestant. Even if he was endorsed by the Catholic Church, he's reading the Bible, he's interpreting the Bible for himself, and he's making it applicable to the people that he's serving. And because he is interpreting the Bible for himself, and because he's not taking it as a literal word of God, that's Protestants. Those are hallmarks of Protestantism. So Saint is in the Catholic Church. He's not a saint. He didn't give a shit about shamrock. I don't even know if there's such thing as a shamrock. There's four-leaf clovers and there's other things, but I think it's already a shamrock, right? So it's saying that is bullshit. But the shamrock, supposedly the three-leaf clover represented the unfathomable Holy Trinity, and that's how he was able to teach the stupid fucking Irish people, you know, about the Trinity, since a cross wasn't good enough or some shit. That's bullshit. He didn't give a fuck about the shamrocks. That was created in the 1700s and the 18th century. That was a fabrication that was made up in the, you know, so he's in the 5th century, and then about, you know, 1300 years later, they add that part to his story. March 17th, this is the day that Patrick died a poor pauper. We raise a glass of warm green beer to St. Patrick, who is neither a saint nor a patricius. His maiden name is Maewyn Sucan or Maginus, or something different. Patricius Maewyn Sucan Maginus was also not born an Irishman, who was probably an atheist, who hated the Catholic Church, who didn't rid the Ireland of snakes, who didn't compare the Trinity to the shamrock, who the Catholic Church co-opted by deeming him sainthood 900 years later in the 12th century, who started a Christian Irish Inquisition, genocided native Irish peoples, pagans, and Celtic Druids, perhaps hundreds, thousands, maybe even 6 million. There's one report of 6 million, okay? And that's the equivalent of Hitler's genocide, but not of the Native American genocide or the Russian genocide in World War II. We have a drunken celebration of the genocide of the Celtic Irish people and their culture by Maewyn Sucan, the Scottish English Roman. So he wiped out the fucking culture and everything that there was there. Basically, Patrick is, if you want to take over Ireland, you do the way Patrick did, right? You set up all these churches, you wipe out their churches, you kill their Druidic priests, and you basically wipe out their leadership, establish yourself as a leader. If people aren't down with it, then you banish them. You get them the hell out, get the hell out of Dodge. This is Patrick's way. This is Patrick's town, and Patrick's going to do whatever the hell Patrick wants. So, what's the point? Who gives a shit? Okay, so what? So what? Patrick's Day, it's a fucking bullshit holiday. Nobody knows what the fuck is going on. It's really about the Irish, right? So, who cares? Why am I making a video about this? Well, there's several reasons. I think, there's any reason to have a party, you could just have a party because, hey, it's my birthday. Hey, I was born on this day. Let's throw a party. Everybody's born on some day. Just find someone's, we can just get online right now and find out whose birthday was today, have a party. So if you're going to have a party, just know what the fuck you're partying. Why, know the purpose of the party. Know why you're doing this. It makes no sense to go through the motions when you don't even know what you're doing. So, my conclusion, and I guess going to go on to the next one, but my conclusion is that all these holidays are all bullshit. In fact, Kwanzaa has more of a solid foundation than most American holidays do. And Kwanzaa is straight up made up by an African-American professor, Maulana Karinga, in 1966. Celebrating Irish culture or springtime makes more sense than celebrating Patrick. Patrick was a genocidal fucktwad, was a fucking piece of shit. Murdered Druidic priests, murdered lots of people, fucking burned their books and shit. So in terms of, that's weird. Like, he's going to sit there and say, they say he saved all fucking Western civilization in his monasteries, but he didn't even save the native Irish peoples. He didn't save the Druidic priests, and he didn't save any of the ways of the Irish before Patrick had got into town. And of course he wouldn't, because that's against his own interest. He wants them to be Christian. So if you could wipe out, where their native culture was, that's the best thing. So he's a genocidal maniac who wipes out the original Irish people and the pagans, takes away their culture, their religion, their way of life, whatever it is, good or bad. We don't know, basically all we got is their propaganda of what they're saying about it. And, there's a lot of positive things. They're one with nature. They're scientific people. These are more, these are positive things. So celebrating Irish culture in springtime makes sense. Celebrating St. Patrick does not. This also makes me think of like springtime in El Castillo. This is where the Mayans of Central America honor the spring equinox. So the Mayans honor spring equinox too. I think that makes sense to me because there's 4 seasons in the year and it's springtime. We should have a party.